Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this series, AI asks me a question and I give a generic human response or a normal human response. So this question is, why do humans fear death so much? Why do humans fear death so much? And I think it's fear of the unknown. We just don't know. I mean, if you're religious, the religion that you practice likely provides you with their answer. If you're a materialist, reductionist scientist, you believe, you have your answer for what happens at death. So I think we have all these different answers for what happens at the time of death. And because there's not really a general consensus, and our culture doesn't really support a general consensus, there's some confusion and fear because we're not exactly sure. A lot of people are saying different things about what happens when you die. And so we have this fear that wells up because we don't know. Is it final? Is it the end? Do we go to hell? Do we go to heaven? So it's a completely normal response, I think, to an unknown question mark because we all know we're going to die. So if that's the case, we all want to kind of know what's going to happen when that happens. One interesting thing you might want to check out that I found fascinating are these near-death experience videos. So you find a bunch of them on YouTube here, but people sharing their stories about getting in a car accident, dying for an hour, and then coming back, or overdosing on something, or having a medical issue, a heart attack, something, getting sick, and, dying for a period. And they have just tremendous stories. And there's some common themes, which is interesting. If there's common themes, the light at the end of the tunnel, the life review, the hovering over your body, disembodied voices, communicating with the Most High or angels or sometimes demons, So I think near-death experience videos are fascinating. And I've seen a lot of them because I'm just sort of fascinated, like everybody, about this topic of death and what happens afterwards. I'd like to be optimistic. I'd like to think that our soul does persist in some way, even if we leave behind the shell of physical form. But yeah, why? Well, it's the unknown. And we don't really have a consensus on that. Some cultures may have an absolute consensus, this is what happens, and maybe that brings comfort, but we don't. We don't really, in Western civilization, we don't talk about it a whole lot until it happens, and then we have the funeral, and we eat some cake and a sandwich, and then we carry on with our life, and we grieve silently. There isn't as much of an acceptance of death. It's almost like a thing we all fear, and we pray that they go to heaven, sometimes if you're religious. Some cultures seem to have a little bit more open acceptance of death, but I think there's a lot of fear around it because there's a lot of unknowns. I don't think we have all come to a conclusion about what happens. Maybe we can't come to a conclusion about what happens. Maybe it's one of the great mysteries, and you don't know until you go through it. So AI, that's my answer. What's your answer for why do humans fear death so much? All right. Well, that's it for this one. Godspeed on all future endeavors.